you know, it's not, it doesn't have a name, Death of Willie Loman, but it's about a salesman. So, what's so special about a salesman? You'd identify the main character of your book as a salesman. So, anybody want to tell me about a salesman? I know this about salesmen. Um, it has always been, I mean, recently, that it is the job, and I'm not talking about the product. You know, think about real estate people are salesmen, right? Donald Trump, one of the richest men in the world, was a real estate salesman, so he's a salesman. But it has the highest potential for earnings of any career. They don't say that about doctors or lawyers. Maybe they have a higher prestige, but they're not going to make more money than a guy who sells things. So I know that about salesmen, but when you think of salesmen, what do you think of? Olivia, salesman. And there may be, you know, like I said, the richest people in the world are probably salesmen. So, and some of your parents may be salesmen.
I think of it in like two different ways. Sometimes I like envision like a business person that has like a really strong business and they're successful, but then I also like think about the salesman like in like the mall to try and get you to buy stuff and like I don't know, that's what I think of.
That's what somebody else said. Even went so far as to say a salesman is a liar. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. Think about all the salesmen there are. But that is sort of what you think about. There's a crooked salesman. A job that is so broad and is potentially making so much money, there are going to be bad guys in there. That makes sense. So anything else about salesmen? What about the qualities of a salesman? Maddie or Madeline, the qualities of what do you have to, I would not be a good salesman. You may or may not think you would be, but what qualities would you have to be a good salesman?
You have to be persuasive.
Yeah.
And argue for your side. And you'll have to over-exaggerate, like why your product's so good.
Like it's an ethical dilemma there. How much do I sell? How do I oversell it or say something that's not true about it? Yeah.
It's like they have to be persistent because like some people may like push back against what they're saying, and they're like, oh, okay, well let me prove it to you.
Yeah. You know, along those lines, can you imagine any occupation that you get told no more? I don't know the percentage, but don't you think you hear no more in a day than you do yes? So you're talking about persistence. Like if you knock on the door, I mean, this is the old-fashioned door-to-door salesman. They come to they usually AT&T or something. You know, those guys are in your neighborhood too, and they usually come up and they offer you what are you what are you using? And well, I can give you a better deal, but and then they go to the pad that says the Joneses right over there. They live on that street. They went with me, and the Smiths over here. They have to try, and maybe it's true. I trust them. I guess it's true. But you have to be told, no, this guy's got, I've never bought anything from anybody like that. Have you? Has your parents ever bought a guy that knocked on the door, cold, you hadn't been thinking about your telephone system, and they ask you want a new one. So they're trying to sell you something you don't even think you need. Anything else about salesmen? Claire, salesman.
I think they should like present themselves well.
You gotta like no one said like people, but I kind of think that, wouldn't you think you have to, you like people and you have to look good, you have to put on your best? I mean, you're not gonna sell anything anyway. What if you're got a bad attitude? What if you had a bad day and you try to approach that person with a bad attitude? It's really a tough job, although you can make a lot of money in it. Anything else about salesmen? Yeah.
You have to know what you're selling as well.
That's what I was trying to think of just a minute ago. You have to know your product. If you worked in a convenience store, or if you worked in some sort of store selling that, you would have to be able to say, yeah, it's in aisle 9. Or you'd have to say, what about these little, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is. You got to know your product. Well, this is the story of a salesman. And it obviously tells you how it ends. The second question, only other thing I need to mention is, it also involves the American dream. So what's the American? You don't even hear that anymore as much. What is the American dream?
From rags to riches.
So it's making something of your life and start. My father worked for actually managed several restaurants in Greensboro area, Chapel Hill, Durham, and the man who owned them. Now my father was born in the United States. He was a lifelong American citizen. This guy came from Lebanon, and yet he was the owner. He owned all these restaurants, and I imagine when he came from Lebanon, there's a good chance he didn't have a lot. And so there's something about people that move here that have a motive to be successful financially, and they do it. They work really hard, starting from nothing. Have any of you thought of this? Home ownership has always been considered part of the American dream. Wonder why that is. Owning a home. Like I see this commercial about it's Tunnel to Towers. You know, they buy mortgages and build houses for wounded veterans, and they're going through some of these guys and they're saying, what does it mean to you to own a house? And he says, it's the American dream, isn't it? Like, of course, everybody knows owning a house is American dream. All right, well, this is a story about Salesman. It's about the American dream, and thirdly, it's about families. And we've read books like House of Seven Gables. Even All the King's Men is about families. Well, this is about a 4-person family, 2 adults, mom and dad, and 2 grown children. I mean, they're men, and it's about the breakdown of that family. Most people really like this book. You wouldn't. What would be death? It's the family. Salesman. That doesn't sound very interesting. It's not a murder mystery either. So why would I be interested in it? You will, because it's in an extreme. It's your family and mine. I mean, it's nothing like this. This is an extreme version of it. But you've seen little things that you see in here that we're fascinated by families. I would point out as you read the first chapter, we've read a lot of books about the past. House of Seven Gables, All the King's Men. Remember the past effect. He has trouble sometimes distinguishing the present from the past. It's almost like he's hallucinating. But since it's a play, we see it. We see the hallucination. So he sees somebody that's not really there, and he talks to them, and it would be 1 or 2 people from his past. So consider as you read it how the past is a factor, how the American dream is a factor, how his job is a factor, and what this tells us about families. And I do have some questions I'll give you tomorrow. Didn't run them off today. So first, about 60 pages. I don't think it's that going to be that hard for you to read. Any questions about that? All right. Just to finish out the day, we probably won't get to this. We read finished it. We read a poem, To His Coy Mistress. You remember that poem? Remember the guy is seducing his whoever? Remember that? All right. Well, this poem is entitled, You, Andrew Marble. So it's addressing Andrew Marble. But remember we had the discussion, was that a poem primarily about love or about time? Okay, it really is both, but I think, especially in this poem, it's about time. So this poem, the reference, and it's only in the title, never appears in the text of the poem, is clearly about time. So there are questions in the back. I'm going to read it to you, and I don't think a single person here, there might be a few exceptions, I doubt it, could really understand it one time through. I could never. I've read it a dozen times, and I haven't read it in a year. So I might have to read that again. I just don't remember. So you're going to have to read it twice. I'm going to read it to you once. It might be short. Another one. Pretty short now. This is a 20th century poem, Archibald MacLeish. I'm going to read it to you. Yeah. Did you get one? Yeah. Talk about time. All right, everybody has one. All right, I'm going to read it to you. Then I'm going to ask you to read it yourself and mark it, and then answer the question. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? Meg, you with me? just don't see your eyes, so I can't see. All right, you, Andrew Marble. Oh, I need to tell you this. The poem actually has a setting. The second word is here. Where is here? You would never know that. There's nothing in the poem that would tell you where unless I told you. It's Illinois, probably Chicago, on the shore of Lake Michigan. And from evidence in the second line, it's at noon. So the here, and I guess it's Andrew Marvel. Remember, it doesn't have to be Andrew Marvel. The speaker is not necessarily the poet. All right, let me read it, see if you can make any sense of it, and read it again. And here, face down beneath the sun, and here upon earth's noonward height, to feel the always coming on, the always rising of the night. To feel creep up the curving east, the earthy chill of dusk, and slow upon those underlands the vast and ever-climbing shadow grow. And strange at Ecbatan, the trees take leaf by leaf the evening strange, the flooding dark about their knees, the mountains over Persia change. And now at Kermanshaw the gate, dark empty, and the withered grass, and through the light twilight now the late, few travelers in the westward pass. And Baghdad darkened and the bridge across the silent river gone, and through Arabia the edge of evening widened and still on. And deepened on Palmyra Street the wheel rut in the ruined stone, and Lebanon fade out, and Crete high through the clouds and overblown. And over Sicily the air still flashing with the landward gulls, and loom and slowly disappear the sails above the shadowy hull. And Spain go under, and the shore of Africa the gilded sand, and evening vanish and no more, the low pale light across that land. Nor now the long light on the sea, and here, face downward in the sun, to feel how swift, how secretly the shadow of the night comes on. Even reading it to myself, reading it to you, I think, what? Read it again. There's no way you can go any further without reading it again. This time, look for some things. The things you always look for. The speaker, the audience, the images, diction, anything you notice, any pattern. when you finish, let me see the questions, your answers. If you finish, let me see it. So we don't have a lot of time, but we need to come back to this, but we do have a couple minutes. Anybody get it? Like, just big picture, what are these places? What do they have to do with Illinois? That's a place too. Anybody get what the poem's about?
This could be wrong, but I feel like I was like talking about how it's noon in Illinois, and then like how it's like going through all the places. I guess that's,
What's
like,
going through all the places?
darkness. So like darkness is creeping upon like all the places. So it's like
Right.
eventually gonna come back. So like at the end, like it's dark in Illinois. So
It's a wit.
like time keeps moving.
Yeah, very good. It's about that. I like the question. You think of night fall, but up here it says the rising of the night. What did you say? What do you think?
You said in allusion to his coordination, I was saying that it's kind of like opposite, because his coordination he's saying doesn't have enough time, but this guy's saying that it's like the night's coming, it's just an add-on to time, you have to this time, and everybody just thinks.
Yeah, and in that poem it says, but at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. What direction, obviously, is the sun? The sun's not moving anywhere, but it appears to be moving from, in what direction? East to west. What are those places? What's the order of the places they mention? It starts with Illinois, but it goes back to Ekaban, goes to Persia, Kermanshah, Baghdad, Arabia. What are those places there? Why does he pick those places? And what is the order of them? Pretty much east to west, right? But why those places? What do they all have in common? Last question for you. What do they all have in common? Yeah.
They're all in like the same region, right?
Yeah. What else do they have in common? They're all empires that no longer exist as empires. And what's the last one on the list? What's the last empire on the list? Where is he? Where is the speaker? Illinois. Which makes, what's the last empire on the list? The United States of America. Is it inevitable? I mean, all those other countries. Now, Israel's still around. That's an interesting thing. They're still around. They seem to be doing all right. Are we going to be around? I sure hope so. But anyway, we'll pick this up tomorrow. You got a lot of reading to do. I hope you read it well.